Hi, welcome back. It's Jerry with JB Sports Cards, JB's Card Breaks, and today we're talking about graded cards. I'm going to go over basically the top 4 companies. I'm going to show you a few cards from each of the companies. We're going to talk about return on investment, the slabs, turnaround time, and we're also just going to show you a few cards I'm thinking about sending in. So we'll kind of have a discussion about these different companies. I know a lot of people that are first getting into card grading have a lot of questions, and a lot of the videos really talk about, you know, 1 or 2 companies. There's actually 4 companies that are fairly popular now. So we'll get into number 1 here. The card company that most people use, it is PSA. PSA has been around for a long time, so they've been in the game longer than anybody else. SGC came in afterwards, and then you saw BGS, and then newer company called GMA. So let's just take a look at this slab here. You see that, you know, it's relatively thin. It's got the barcode, red border. All right, let's take a look at a BGS slab, and then we'll take a look at GMA and SGC. So BGS, it's thick, so you have to have a little thicker sleeve, otherwise it's not going to work. Here, I'll show you one that actually has the typical subgrades on it. So for example, a typical BGS card, you're going to have different subgrades. So on this one, you have centering, edges, corners, and edges. I don't know if you can see that, but so that's typical for BGS. You see that had 2 9.5 subgrades and 2 9s, but got a mint 9. The label's silver for a 9, and I believe they put the gold on the gem mint. So like this one, their 9.5 is the gem mint. Okay, now let's go on to SGC. Okay, so SGC, of course, is the black and white, large font for the grade, and they have the 9.5. Now, unlike BGS, that is not their gem mint. That is a mint plus. So that's a really cool thing that they have. If your card isn't a 10, but it's not a 9, you can get that tweener grade. Whereas BGS and PSA, for example, I mean, it's basically gem mint or it's 9. There's nothing in between. Just like this Aussie Albies refractor here, that had 2 9.5 subgrades. That's probably 9.5 with SGC. That would pop the value up. But the SGC slab is roughly the same size as the PSA. Let's take a little comparison here. Just a tad bit bigger and the same thickness. You can use the same graded card sleeves on those. Don't have a problem with that. And the last one we have GMA. So this is a company that's fairly new. A lot of people are sending in personal collected items that are valuable to this company. They have a quick turnaround. They're only about $4 after shipping and everything to get a card done. Now, my experience with GMA, I've sent in some bulk orders before. They're very fast. I mean, we're talking about a week end to end, maybe just a little bit over that, so 7 to 10 days. And about 80% of my cards came back at Gem Mint 10. Now, I don't send anything I do not believe is mint or better, unless it's an old vintage card. So, I mean, that's pretty good. But when I took a closer look at some of the cards, I did see that I would say about 20% of them that were Gem 10s, I would probably have graded at the 9, maybe a mint plus 9.5. So I would say, I mean, if you're buying the card, GMA, just look at it. You know, buy the card, not necessarily the grade. They're not terrible by any means. I think, you know, their accuracy is pretty good. I mean, it's much better than, we're not even going to talk about BCCG, but that's a terrible grading company. If you ever get any BCCG, they're usually about 2 numbers off on their grade, if not more. So I don't buy any of their stuff. But GMA, not too bad. Good slab, just like the PSA. same size, and it's actually a hair, yeah, it's about the same thickness. So you're talking about the difference of, you know, $20 to get a card graded or $350. So obviously you're probably not going to send your best card to GMA, but for what it is, I mean, it's actually pretty nice. If you're to buy a one touch and spend, you know, $2 or $3 on a one touch, it wouldn't have a labeling of the card. And when you go through your collection, it's always nice to kind of take a look at the set it's from and all the information on there with the grade. So it's a good product if you are a personal collector. But again, I mean, with their grading, keep that in mind that they're not quite as tough as PSA or SGC or BGS. So we can talk about that as well, the toughness of grades. Now, PSA, they have 60-40 centering. I'm going to show you a card real quick. This is a Lamar Jackson PSA 10 that came back, gem. I would say that one's about 60-40, okay? If this was an SGC holder, that card would be a 9.5. If that was a BGS, possibly a 9.5, definitely not like a black label 10 or anything like that, okay? So PSA is a little looser on their grading when it comes to centering, but as far as surface issues, I mean, any kind of corners, I mean, they have very low tolerance for that, okay? BGS does have the subgrade, so they factor in all 4 of the grades to come up with their number. So theoretically, I mean, you could have, you know, a 9 corner and everything else being perfect and still get a gem mint. So PSA is a little bit touchier on that, but their centering is definitely not the hardest. SGC takes that into account, making you have 55-45 centering in order to get a gem 10. So that's kind of a brief overview about some of the slabs and their grading standards. As far as turnaround time, PSA, their turnaround time is very slow. Now, even if you did a 7-day service, you send $100 to get a high-end card graded, that card might not even come back for a month. If you do a bulk order or get a subscription and expect your you know, 10 or 15 cards to come back within, you know, 2 or 3 months, it's not likely. It's typically 5 months or longer, because obviously for the COVID-19 they're shut down for a while. Now they will be backed up, so I anticipate 6 months or longer on most orders. Now, as someone that sells a lot of graded cards in order to acquire more in my personal collection, that doesn't work most of the time. It's a lot to expect for one player, or, you know, like a rookie or a market, to not shift in that amount of time. I've had some orders that I've lost hundreds of dollars, if not more, due to the fact that the turn time just took too long, and then all of a sudden market dropped on a player or a specific card. So that's not something that, you know, is great if you're looking at just flipping quick on like hot rookies. You really have to have more anticipation than that if you're going to use them, unless you're just sitting in a super high-end card that you're just going to keep anyway, or, you know, it doesn't really matter. BGS, same story. I mean, they take a long time. They don't guarantee their turnaround. You know, their prices are the same, if not more, than PSA. So you're looking 20 plus shipping, you know, and SGC, they're $10 a card plus shipping. So, you know, anywhere between 11, 12 bucks, unless you're doing like a bulk order, you know, you might end up paying just $10 a card. That's not too bad, and their turnaround time is approximately 20 days. You know, with it being so backed up with all the new submissions, they're taking a little bit longer than 20 days, but I still anticipate most of them within 30 days, which is, you know, that's perfect for me, because typically you don't see a huge market shift in 30 days on a specific player. I mean, it can happen, but it's less likely, okay? Now let's talk about GMA real quick. So if I were to send in a bunch of rookie cards for someone from 2020, let me see if I can find a couple here for you. for example, if I were to send in this Gavin Lux to GMA, which it's likely, it's an insert card, it's probably not something that I'm going to PC. That card's in my hands in 7 to 10 days, and I can make that decision whether I'm going to pay for that, you know, or I'll keep it or sell it. Now, you're not going to get a huge premium on a GMA card. You know, collectors understand that they're a little looser on their 10s than others. So, I mean, you're going to get more than a raw card value. I mean, it's coming protected, it's labeled, but don't expect a huge return, okay? So, for example, if I say this is a $2 or $3 card, I send it in, I pay $4 for that, for the grading plus the shipping, I probably still want to anticipate getting more than, you know, $15 on a card like this. But it's coming back to me in 7 days, so this guy isn't going to, you know, likely get injured or, you know, something crazy happens by the time I can list this item and get it moved. So you'd still be able to double your money, sometimes triple your money with the GMA. SGC, I mean, the same thing. Now, 20 days, okay, 20 to 30 days, you can have a quicker turn time if you want to pay a little bit more, which is, it's not obnoxious like PSA to have expedited service. It might be 20 bucks for their top end, you know, 7 days to get back in your hands. So if I did that, let's say I had a newer rookie card, let's say I sent in a Bo Bichette rookie, and, you know, he's off to a hot start, and I get that graded, it's 10 bucks, it comes back, I can get that thing back on the market and move it, and I can move it before people that send in their PSA get theirs back. So if he does have a drop off, I'm still going to make money off of it. Now, let's say, for example, that's a $5 card, or, you know, a $3 or $4, $5 card raw, and then I send it into SGC for 10 bucks. You know, what do I think I'm going to get off something like that? Well, if you look at the market, things have changed significantly. Now, SGC is closing the gap on PSA in a lot of ways. Now, you're seeing these cards that would be, you know, in the past with SGC might be 20 bucks for a Gem 10, 25. Now they're, you know, shooting up. I see Bo Bichette and Lux demanding $40, $50 even on base rookie cards with SGC. Now, PSA, when, you know, people are getting theirs in and they're getting them back, they might be able to get 50 or 60 on those, but they're waiting longer, they're taking more risk, they're paying more money up front for the grading typically, unless they're doing a bulk submission. But if they're doing a bulk submission, again, that's going to take forever. So, obviously, being able to move and make all of your cards liquid is very important if you're a collector and a flipper. For me as a collector, I need to be able to flip cards, that way I can continue to build my personal collection that I want to build up. So that's something to consider. That's why right now I'm using SGC GMA. You know, there's good cards that I even send into GMA sometimes that I know that I'm going to keep long term, and there's no reason, you know, that I wouldn't use them, because I'm never going to sell the card anyway. So if you're a fan of somebody, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Even if this card had a minor surface scratch or something just super small, and maybe they, you know, kept it at a 10 as opposed to a 9, which, I mean, it's possible. I had an order of, I don't know, maybe 35 cards with them last month, and I saw 2 or 3 of the 10s that were probably 9s. But 80% of the time, I mean, they're good. But just, you know, if you're going to buy one of those, just take a look at the card, you know, or ask the seller, you know, did you see anything wrong with that? Or, you know, if you're buying on eBay, because sometimes pictures aren't the best. But, you know, there's a lot of options out there if you're grading cards. The one that I can be honest with you that I'll never use, unless I'm just buying and I see it at a good price, is BGS. Really don't like the label. It's too thick, so you have to get a little bigger bag for it. The PSA ones won't fit. Just not a big fan. They cost a lot. They take forever, and their 9.5 Gem Mint, I mean, is outsold by SGC 10s. Even SGC 9.5s a lot of the time go for the same. and it's obviously outsold by a PSA 10. So BGS is definitely number 4 for me for using. I mean, I'll buy BGS already graded, but I mean, never going to submit to them. You know, some of their cards actually are pop-out candidates. When I talk about popping out, I mean people like, for example, this Gleyber Torres Refractor rookie card. This has 2 9.5 subgrades, okay? There's nothing visually wrong with this card. I mean, the surface, I mean, says that it's a 9, but if we have 2 9.5s, you know, and we have just a 9 on the surface, I have to think that this is a Mint Plus card, and could be resubmitted to SGC to get the Mint Plus. So, you know, some people pop them out. They will you know, come out there and they'll just resend them into SGC, which is an option because you can pick up a BGS 9 for relatively cheap. And I'm not opposed to picking up 9s. I mean, right now, you know, there's certain players that I look for, guys like Cody Bellinger, Mint 9. You know, look, if I look this card over with my eye, I don't see anything. It doesn't have a touch of white in any of the corners, okay? Centering is great. You know, Ronald Acuna is another one. If you're looking to pick up cards for, you know, cheap, under value, go with the PSA 9. And, you know, if you feel like it, you can pop them out and try to get the 9.5 Mint Plus, because PSA doesn't have the Mint Plus. It's either a 9 or a 10, and a lot of the time the cards just, they're not truly a 9. So just take a look at the card. Don't go off the label. It's someone's opinion on any given day. It can be totally different. But I will, I'll be getting some SGC orders in, several within the next few weeks. And I'm making a little pile here of cards I'm probably going to send in again with them in the near future. Right now, I'm looking at mostly doing baseball. I might get into a little football the next couple of months, but you know, I got some Alonzos. I like to send in multiples of cards. There's a little football. There's a Shaq Barkley press proof, Vlad metallic. I have, you know, several of these Acuñas, and every time I sent one into PSA, they kept giving me a 9. So I'm going to send another one off. You know, Luis Roberts, he's hot. He doesn't have a true base. He just has his SP right now out of opening day 2020, but he does have a shorter print in Dunross, so he's going off. And his parallel. Rafael Devers is hot. I really like Eloy Jimenez. I think he's going to be a good one. So there's a good opportunity here if you're looking to start grading cards to be able to get a good return on your investment. And it's all about your strategy. Like I said, I recommend, you know, getting those cards back as quick as you can. Trying to, you know, get that flip on some cards. You know, send in duplicates. That way you can keep one, you can sell one, you can get your money back on your grading plus some, and then you can continue your collection. And that's really how you build up. I mean, you don't have to have a lot of money to, you know, start building a huge collection. Set a budget, start grading, and you'll see that you're grading cards that are $4 or $5. You're paying $10 to get that done with SGC, and then you're getting 40 or 50 bucks back. So then maybe you can go buy, you know, another card that you really want. So that's my thoughts on the card grading industry right now. I think it's really good if you're a collector. I think it's, you know, for investing purposes, I think that if you have some good vintage cards that are in great shape, I mean, it's always a good idea to keep them safe and, you know, hang on to them that way. Really, I mean, moisture damage, all kinds of things can happen with cards. So it's always a good idea to get your cards graded and keep them safe, especially if they're ones that are, you know, very valuable that you're going to hold long term, or maybe you're going to pass your collection down to your kids. So do I think that, you know, holding every card that you grade is a smart idea? No. You're going to lose your ass if you do that, okay? You know, 80% of these rookies will bust. You need to be smart about that. You can't just put it all in on one guy. You know, make smart decisions. Look at more proven players. It's always a good idea to, you know, look at, you know, guys that are getting close to the Hall of Fame. Picking up guys that are undervalued. Guys that, you know, just have the numbers and are going to get there. So, you know, guys like Mike Trout, Nolan Arenado, there's plenty of guys out there that you can, you know, I think safely invest in my opinion. But if you're just buying guys from the last couple years, then, you know, it's not necessarily an investment. So don't think about it that way. Don't think that you're going to get rich off of sports cards, but you can collect for cheap or even make money off of it by grading sports cards. Okay, so thanks for tuning in, guys. I know it was a long video. I hope you got more information than you needed, because really when I started collecting, there wasn't great information out there about sports card grading and all the companies. You know, everybody just said, hey, just go to PSA or BGS, and obviously that's not going to work for everybody. Not everybody is going to have thousands of dollars that they can float and wait 6 months to get a card back and possibly have it tank because it takes too long to get back and the market changes. So think about other companies. You know, like I said, SGC GMA, I think they do a great job. I think SGC's grading is as good as anybody's, if not the best. Their slabs are good. You know, we saw the difference in slabs, and really they're all the same besides the BGS. So consider that too. If you guys have any questions or you're looking for a specific card, I do have an eBay store. I have, you know, tons of graded cards, and, you know, I'm always moving and getting new ones in. So just feel free to reach out to me. As always, guys, take it easy. Have a good night.